Hello guys, welcome back to another basic Java programming tutorial. In this episode we are going to learn about what you mean by a static method or static variable in a Java program. If you want to define some variables or methods that is not belongs to any object of the class, then you can use the static method. That means if you declare a variable static, then you can use that variable without using any object of the class. Also, if you declare a static method, you can use the method without any object of the class. Okay, so you can understand the use of static keyword with this example. So here in this example we have only a single class is available, my class, that contain the main method. So here I am going to declare some static variables. Here I declare one variable x and initialize the variable with some value 10. Now I declare another static variable. It is also integer type and the variable is y. Okay, one more variable is needed. That is also static int z. So now in this class we have three variables x, y and z. I already initialized variable x with some values. Now I have to initialize variable y and z. But for variable z I need some computation. So if you want to perform some computation on a static variables, you have to define some static block. So now here I am going to define some static block for initializing variable y and z. So x is already initialized. Here we are not doing any computation. This is simple initialization, but for variable z I need some computation. That's why I use a static block. So here I am going to declare a static block. So this is a static block. Now I am going to initialize variable y with some value 20. Now for variable z I need some computation, x plus y. So that's why I use the static block. For variable z I make some computation. That's why I put the computation statement inside this static block. Okay, so how the static block will be executed? Whenever the class is loaded for the first time, the Java runtime first initialize the static variables. So when we load the class, it will initialize all the static variables and declare it. And soon after completing the declaration and initialization, it will search the program for any static block. If it found a static block, it will execute the static block. So the static block will be executed before creating any object of that class. That is the use of the static block. You can see it here. So here I am going to print some statements, system.out.println static block executed. Okay, so now here from the main method, here I am not creating any object for this class, but if you run the program, of course this will loaded by the Java runtime because this contain the main method. So now I run the program. So run this file. Here on the output you can see the static block executed. That means here actually in the main method we are not creating any object for the class, but when I run the program, the Java virtual machine will load the class my class, and after initializing, after declaring all the static variables, it will execute the static block. That is the use of a static block. So by using a static block you can perform some computation on the static variables. Okay, now here on the same class I am going to declare a static method. So static void, I name the method as display, and from this method I am going to print some statement from static display method. From static display method and print each of these variables values, static variable values. First one is x, and the value is x. Second one is y, value is y, and the last one is z, and the value is z. Okay, now I have to call this method. So if the class is loaded, it will initialize and declare all the variables, static variables, and execute the static block. But you have to call a static method. So for calling a static method, there is no need of an object. That is why we are using static. So if you declare an object, if you create an object of the same class, then it will not create the static variables. Instead, all the object of the class share the same static variables and methods. Okay, so now I have to call the static method. So from main method, here I am going to call the static method. You can just call the static method with its name. There is no need to create an object of the class. Okay, so now I am going to run this program, run this file. Now here we got the output. First execute static block, then call the static method, publish static display method, and execute and display the value of x 10, y 20, and z is 30. This is because value of z is x plus y 20, that means 30. Okay, now we learn how to declare static variables, how to use a static block, what is the use of a static block, and how to use a static method. So while working with static method, you have to notice something. So a static method can access only other static methods, and a static method can access only static data. Okay, that is very important. Now I am going to create another class. Now we are going to learn how to call a static method from other class, from the outside of this class. So create another class here. I name the class as test, and define some method within this class. Public void, I name the method as calculate, call static. Okay, now I am going to call the static method from this method. That means from outside of this class. So for invoking a static method, there is no need of any object. Instead, you can just use the class name. So here the class name is my class. So now I am going to invoke that method, my class dot display. Before going to call this, I am going to change all the static variable values. My class dot x equal to 100. Now change y variable y, my class dot y equal to 200, and final one is z, my class dot z equal to 300. Okay, now from main method, I am going to create an object of the second class test. System.out.println, and just print some star here. Now I am going to create an object of the second class called the test. So test t equal to new test. Now I am going to invoke the method on this class. So t dot call static. So for invoking a static method from another class, you have to use the class name. There is no need of any object. So now we can test the program. So I run the program. Now this one static executed the value of x 10, y 20, and z 30. Now from static display method, and the value of x is 100, y 200, and z 300. Okay, so this is how we using a static variable and static method in a Java program. I hope you understand what is the exact use of a static keyword in a Java program. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.